Hi everyone, thank you all for joining us. I hope it will be worth your while. Let me introduce our speakers for today. Our first speaker is Mr. Akash Maure. Akash is CEO of PrimeNumerics Consulting, a company that assists organizations in effectively managing business performance by utilizing the enterprise data with the help of advanced data analysis and reporting services. PrimeNumerics Consulting has worked with large manufacturing, life sciences, utilities, and oil and gas companies to help them make informed business decisions related to finance and manufacturing. Our second speaker is Mr. Giridhar Prabhu. Giri is the Managing Director of KCI Computing Limited, India, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of KCI Computing Incorporation. Akash will start the session in a moment. During the webinar, we will also use 3 quick polls to have a better understanding in few of the areas of our webinar audience interest. If you have any questions during the webinar, please keep writing those in the chat window and we will answer those at the end of the webinar during question and answer session.
Thanks, Samruddhi. Good morning, everybody. Akash Maure here. I will start with introduction on corporate performance management. That is the topic of today's webinar. After I do some initial introduction, Giridhar Prabhu will take you through actual demo of the product called Control, developed by KCI Computing, brought to Indian market by PrimeNumerics. So if you really look at corporate performance management, CPM solution mainly used by finance function to support core financial processes of budgeting, planning, consolidation, forecasting, and reporting. CPM solutions are increasingly being used outside corporate finance to help link corporate and operational plans of organizations, to provide wider access to financial analytics, to help develop strategies that deliver in regard to the expectation of shareholders, investors, and other financial bodies. CPM applications mainly serve 2 needs. One, on tactical sides, where you have more efficient financial processes. You can enable greater control and transparency. You can promote much better regulatory compliance. On strategic side, CPM will help you in better performance management. Generally, CPM platform includes following broad modules or areas: budgeting, planning and forecasting, which is known as BP&F, profitability modeling and optimization, strategy management, financial consolidation and close, financial and management reporting and disclosure. Generally, companies which are using any ERP today, be it SAP, Oracle or BAN, when they are not using any CPM platform, they are faced with following problems. So strategy sometimes is not effectively aligned with operational plans and execution or linked to market events. Without CPM, companies will necessarily land up with silos of processing methodologies, array of data sources of various systems like CRM, supply chain, and ERP. Generally, if you really look at finding a version of truth, you will land up into multiple versions of truth without CPM. CPM will really help you create single version of truth. You will have problem of extensive data chasing, reconciliation and synchronization. Generally, without CPM, you will land up with dated as well as rear view perspective. You will not get a front view perspective about your organization. You will only see where your organization has gone wrong or right. You will not see a front view perspective where how is your organization moving, what are you seeing for the future. So there is no predictive perspective without CPM. Without CPM, you will generally have very little real-time quantitative analysis and almost no what-if scenario modeling. Most likely you will end up into reactive decision making rather than proactive decision making. So what are the benefits any corporate performance management platform brings? It will give you a better collaborative analysis, slicing and dicing of data in a new and creative ways. You will get real-time access to KPIs, interact with them, drill down to source and operational system as against looking at static number. Marketing can develop new and better products and services, access their results of campaigns in a better manner. There will be better understanding in terms of target markets, doing where to do cross-sell, upsell, and so on. You can analyze patterns for effective and faster investment decisions. So let's say a manufacturing company is landed up with a situation of expanding capacity. Today, without CPM, they have no information to really take a decision which is fact-based to have more investment into the newer plants or expand into newer geographies. Typically, CPM will impact across functions to meet legal and regulatory needs when it comes to consolidation and compliance and reporting perspective. CPM also can bring a lot of benefit which HR can use to analyze the workforce, its impacts on salary and related decisions. So what are we really bringing on the table? PrimeNumerics is around 15-year-old company specializing in corporate and enterprise performance management. PrimeNumerics is bringing KCI Computing's control product, which is a global leader in CPM, to the Indian market. KCI started by Mr. Max K in 1977, so he's one of the legendary persons in corporate performance management. KCI has a flagship product called Control, which is identified by Gartner into one of the top 10 CPM platforms consistently for last 10 years. KCI provides dynamic, cost-effective corporate performance management solution to organizations of all sizes and varieties. So be it FMCG organization, be it manufacturing organization, be it service organization, or even educational institutes. So it caters to the wide array of organizations and industries in helping improve corporate performance management practices. These are some of the global customers KCI brings on the table. So the largest FMCG company in the world, Procter & Gamble, largest aerospace company, Boeing, some of the largest media houses like HBO, and host of others. There are more than 165 global customers which KCI has. Be it banking, be it pharma, be it manufacturing, be it FMCG, it covers wide array of industries from a perspective of corporate performance management. So let's throw some light on how exactly Control of KCI solves the problem identified in one of our earlier slides. It really gives a single comprehensive tool for integrated view of your entire enterprise, which is really missing with most of the solutions. It is extremely non-prescriptive. It is very flexible. It is not a solution which will put its own rules onto you. It will generally conform the way you do your business. One of the biggest advantage Control brings on the table is it embraces Excel and overcomes its drawback. So if you really look at corporate finance departments in most of the companies, they are tuned to using Excel at various levels, be it CFO, be it VP Finance, be it Finance Manager, right down to the financial analyst or individual corporate contributor in finance department. All of them are generally using Excel to do all the kind of analysis. So even if you have ERP system like SAP, Oracle, BAN, or Microsoft, essentially most of the corporate finance function right now is pulling all the data from ERP into Excel and then analyzing it. So Control really solves this problem of Excel which is not multi-user, Excel which is not auditable. Control really brings a multi-user, auditable, and integrable version of Excel. So it really embraces the Excel rather than throwing away Excel, as well as it overcomes the drawbacks of Excel. It creates common central repository of all your data. So if you remember, one of the problems we are trying to attack is not having single version of truth. So once you have a common centralized repository of all your financial information, your operational information, you will create a single version of truth. Control is an extremely controlled solution. By that, what I mean is it will allow an entire hierarchy of users in a company to be mapped inside control. It has a back-end relational database management system which will allow you to design the various levels of access. It is secure. It is auditable system where you can actually check who changed the line in a budget. In an existing environment where you are, let's say, using SAP or Oracle or Microsoft ERP, you have your finance function pulling data from ERP into Excel, changing certain pieces, and then presenting you in a monthly financial review or MIS meetings. You have no control. So that kind of security and auditability is embedded inside control. It's extremely scalable solution. To give you some perspective, some of the largest implementation of control have few terabytes of data only for corporate performance management. So it is extremely scalable solution. It is extremely extensible solution. So you could do your capital budgeting, you could do your salary planning, you could do your marketing planning, you could design multiple levels of budget inside the system. You could actually have multiple levels of plans. So you can actually do strategic planning, corporate financial planning inside control system. It has built-in functionality to seamlessly integrate with any number of data sources. So some of control existing customers have more than 40 data sources integrated into the central repository. You can also do a lot of on-the-spot dynamic processing. Another perspective we bring on the table is control is really a platform. You can do a lot of things with it. It is not a closely ended solution or a suite of application alone. It is a platform with which you can do multiple applications from a perspective of budgeting, planning, your forecasting needs, your consolidation needs. So it's really a platform to be used to address your financial needs. So in terms of its appeal, it is a broad-based solution which has a lot of horizontal application possibility. It has in-depth functionality in terms of really embracing Excel. It is flexible and extensible. You obviously create a one central repository of metadata and data. You can integrate control with your operational system. You could have Tally, you could have legacy ERP system, you could have SAP, Oracle, you could integrate possibly with any system. It embraces and enhances your Excel, eliminating the drawbacks. It is driven by financial professionals. This is one of the biggest advantage we bring on the table, that control is viewed and liked more by financial people than purely by IT. IT obviously likes it with the capability it gives you to integrate with operational system. But most of the people in finance function would like control eventually because it is driven by finance professional. There is a lot of self-service functionality inside control. So since the overall interface is delivered in a manner of Excel worksheets and Excel templates, it gives you a lot of self-service functionality. So it gives you ability to really play around with your Excel tool with advantage of auditability and multi-user. So generally what we have seen, most of the organizations which adopt control for their CPM practices, they will have much faster time to value and much faster ROI once they invest into control. So what are the main, I would say, continuum perspective which control brings on the table? So any company which might have a tight business strategy or corporate strategy department, they will decide overall 3-year, 5-year strategy and goals. They can set targets. They could be measured inside the control platform. You can monitor and measure your various KPIs. You can analyze, explain, and report. Then you can also do various what-if simulations. You can do anticipate and simulate. You can create multiple plans. You can do budget versus actual. You can also compare budget versus forecasted. So all of that, this really is the complete continuum of corporate performance management which control supports with an end-to-end integration with your system. Another important concept which control brings on the table is ability to define multi-dimensional model inside control. So you might have organization as a, so sometimes Any company today, if you look at, it's a composition of multiple business units, product lines, divisions, departments, and then it can be also mapped on various time dimensions. So let's say you want to analyze your budgeting or your planning versus time. So you could do it a 3 to 5 year perspective, you could do a yearly perspective, you could do a quarterly, monthly, weekly, and right up to that, even daily perspective. So those are some of the dimensionality concept. Multidimensional concept is one of the core or the cornerstone of control as a platform, which allows you to do analysis across your financial CPM perspective. Another perspective, the way control works is, you might have multiple systems. You might have your ERP, your separate general ledger, you might have separate data warehousing systems, HR, supply chain, CRM, you might have your own set of Excel sheets. Control really allows you to create a single metadata as well as data repository. And on top of that, you have an Excel interface. So what is the real advantage it brings from a perspective of usability? Most of the finance professional, once they start using control, they are not investing heavily into learning a totally new tool. They are just using their own years of work they have done with Excel with the advantages of control, and they can embrace complete control features and exploit them with an Excel user interface. So that's a big advantage which control brings on the table. So I think that possibly covers my part. So I'll request Samruddhi to run a quick poll. There is one set of quick questions which she will pose it to you, and you could quickly answer them. And after that, I will move on, give the control to Giri for taking the next piece.
Let's have a first quick poll question here, and you can choose to select the given options. Our first question is, for your budgeting, planning, and forecasting process, are you using any standard tool? Please select your platform, whether are you using structured CPM platform, or you're using Excel, or using no structured processes. So here we are getting the answers. As per the results, what we can see, most of the people are using Excel. 82% of companies are using Excel only, and only 9% of people are using structured CPM platform, and 18% have no structured processes. Okay, fine. So here I hand over the platform to Giri, who will give it a demonstration of our product control. Giri?
Good morning, everyone who's joined the webinar this morning. And my name is Giridhar Prabhu, and I'm from KCI Computing. Akash has given a very good overview of CPM solutions, and he has also kind of explained some of the key benefits that control as a CPM software brings to the end users. So I would use the next 30 to 35 minutes of the time on this webinar to kind of demonstrate our controls software features and also re-emphasize some of the points that Akash discussed in his PowerPoint presentation. Before I start, kindly let me know. Hi, can everybody see my screen now? Okay, sorry for the small hiccup. Let me actually start with the demo of the control software. So I actually just launched the control from my start menu, and I am actually logged into the Microsoft Excel now, and you see this control navigator. So what happens basically is control uses Excel as its user interface. This was one of the design choices of the software that we wanted our end user community, which is mostly going to be people in the financial planning and analysis field, and they are used to Excel. So we made it as a design choice to just embrace the technology that is leveraged by the end users, and that is our user interface as well. However, behind the scene, control is actually installed on a RDBMS database. As you can see here, control can be installed on industry standard RDBMS databases. It could be SQL Server, it could be Oracle, it could be Sybase. So we kind of leverage the investment any organization would have done in an RDBMS platform, and control can be installed on those. We do not use any proprietary database. We just use the RDBMS technology, and that's how we kind of embrace Excel as our user interface, but at the same time we eliminate all the inherent drawbacks that generally Excel has, and because of the RDBMS platform, we provide a very structured, secure, and multi-user environment for the process of corporate performance management. As I log into this control demo application, you will see that the moment I logged in, a lot of these buttons here got enabled, and there is an application menu, which typically is how an end user will access the features and functions in a control software are enabled. I'll quickly go into this financial actuals view. So what you are seeing on your screen now is basically what we call in control terminology as a view. This view is basically coming from a multi-dimensional model. In our example here, it's called the financials model. And what you're seeing is a specific slice of data coming out of this multi-dimensional model. So what you're seeing on your screen is data from the actuals scenario for the year 2015 and all the P&L accounts for this organization. Akash actually covered a slide in his presentation which talked about the multidimensional model in control. I'm trying to re-emphasize that fact here. So let me kind of show how this multidimensional model is built in control. So let me launch this feature in control called Universe. So at the core of what we do in control is a multi-dimensional model. There could be many models when we create an application. We are seeing a sample model here. So this is called the financials model, which is made up of 4 dimensions. Typically, any multi-dimensional model would have a time period dimension, as explained by Akash earlier, the time dimension could be made up of multiple levels. In my example here, I have a month rolling up to quarters and the year and total year. It could be weeks, it could be days as well, but that's part of the implementation for a specific application requirement. We have scenarios. Scenarios could be your actual, your budget, your forecast. You could have what if scenarios. There could be any number of scenarios that can be handled by a multidimensional model. Accounts are basically your measures. It could be your P&L accounts, balance sheet accounts, could be operational metrics. And we have what we call an organization dimension, which is in this example called the business units dimension. Depending on what we are trying to model, it could be your customer, it could be your product, and so on and so forth. Coming back to my view here, so you are seeing this data on your Excel sheet here, and you get to see these special buttons here, and what we call these as are the dimensions branch buttons. So these buttons basically enable you to kind of navigate through the data which is available from this cube presented in the Excel environment. I will try to demonstrate some of the features related to how the data can be viewed in different ways and how it could be sliced and diced. So let me begin with the page section here. So as I launched this view, you're basically seeing the actual data at the total company level. And when I click this button, it kind of brings up a page selection. My business unit dimension was made up of divisions and rolled up to my total company. Now, while I saw the summary of the actual data, I could easily just switch over to any one individual division. And the moment I selected the boiler division, you could see that the views immediately change to reflect the data for that division. So when the view is actually prepared, you select a specific branch out of your dimension which has the levels and the groupings that you are interested in. And once that view is kind of created, you could easily just switch between these various levels of detail, and the view is immediately refreshing to show you what is your area of interest. I have my time shown here by quarters, taking the same notion of the different levels of detail that I showed here. I could also do what we call an expand and compress of the data in a view. So as I click this button, you see that my view changed now to show the data for the months, which is kind of grouped into my quarters and the year. So it is just a click of a button. You could actually compress your data or expand it to get to see more levels of detail. This is true for any dimension which is available on the view. So I could do the same expand and compress for my accounts dimension. I could do the same with my business units. We could also kind of see the data in different ways depending on what is that you are trying to analyze. So let me show a couple of examples. So let's say if I want to see my net sales and I want to see that by business units, I could just drag my accounts dimension to the pages and bring my business units to the rows, and you can see that the I get to see a different perspective of my data to aid my analysis. It is also very easy for us to kind of filter the data that we are looking for, each of these dimension branch buttons, when I right click on them, has this option called filter data, using which I could basically control the data that I would like to see in my view. Now, as you see here, I have currently filtered this data for year 2015. If I want, I could include my previous year, which is 2014, into this. And when I apply that filter, I get to see my 2 years data on the view. The same feature can be applied on any of the dimensions. Now, as you actually view your data and look at the details, there may be, in a typical planning environment, there will be notes that you typically make. Control has a feature called comments. So we actually provide cell comments as well as row comments. So as of now, let me kind of show how these cell comments work. Let me filter this back to just what I was interested in. I expand my time dimension and I expand it all the way to show my months. Now let's say in the month of April, I'm seeing the net sales for this distribution control system has a slight dip. And I would like to make a note, and I would like to take this up for discussion. Having enabled my cell comments, I could make an entry, which is again using your Excel's feature of a comment. I could make an entry saying, and I can save this data. And when I go back and see this, you would see that there is some additional detail that has been logged. It shows who was the user who made the comment, and there is a scope as well. Sometimes what happens is you may be doing some notes for your own sake, so comments can be made private. So there could be some where, as in this case, it is something up for discussion, so it is a comment which is public. Now these comments are actually stored in the database, and control remembers exactly which particular combination of data where the comment was made. So if you open this view in a different context, the moment you see the data in the for the distribution control system for April month, exactly at the same place, you will get to see the comments again. So just to say, the comments follow the data, and they will be visible in any report you would see for the same account and the time and business unit combination. Moving on, I'll try to show now some features which are available in the software for the purpose of budgeting and forecasting. Let me launch this OPEX budget entry form. As you can see on my screen now, I have opened a view which is basically on a model called operating expenses. Earlier I was using the financials model. Now I am on the operating expense model. I am looking at my budget scenario, and this is a form which allows budget data entries to be made in a very simple manner. What we were earlier seeing was more of a multi-dimensional view which had various buttons, but somebody who is more of a person who has to just make entries for the purpose of budget could have some simple data entry forms prepared this way. Let me demonstrate. Let's say I want to enter data for the boilers division and for the IT department. Using your Excel features, I could actually make data entry here. I could also use Excel feature functionality. For example, if I say welfare expenses is about 0.12% of my salary and wages, I could do that. I could cut paste from an existing Excel sheet, and I could, once I have made the entries, I could refresh and I can get to see my revised number, and at the same time dynamically the totals also will be recomputed. And if I'm happy, I can just go ahead and save this data. And you would see that when I go back to my view, we should be able to see the consolidation of this data at the higher level of the organization. This is more of a bottom-up approach to building a budget or a forecast. But there are a lot of features available in the tool through which I can actually work on data from a top-down perspective. So I have launched the same for the same operating expense model, more of the control view that we saw earlier for the financials model. In this case, I'm going to try and look at, I'm seeing the data for all my departments and for a select set of business units, and my scenario is budget. Let's say I am looking at the salary and wages. I think the number that it shows here seems a little lower for me, and I would like to say it should be 600K. As I enter the data and click on my solve button, you would see that all the data for all the months here changed. Not only that, it also did this back calculation across my whole structure of the departments and business units. So similarly, I can use various features available in the tool where I can say, okay, I have the welfare expenses at this number. I want to add a 50K to this. There are simple commands through which I can do that. And I could also do a lot using what we call a transform mechanism available. So let me launch this transform wizard. As you can see, there are a host of features available where I can transform my data on a view that is available here or directly manipulate data within the model. I'm going to kind of show one of the features here for the spread. My intention here is I want to increase postage and stationery from whatever is the number. Say I increase it by about 20%, and while doing so, I want to use a specific pattern, which is, let's say, the increasing pattern. So my target data is the view that I'm seeing. Source is also the view, whatever is present in the view. And I say, okay, modify this data by 1.2%. I do a quick test to see what is the impact, and then I run this. And as you can see, my numbers changed. And they changed in a way that it started from a lower level number, and using this increasing pattern, it kind of created this revised number. So there is similarly, there are a lot of other features available in the transform here, and one of the most powerful one is this forecast function. So there are some statistics techniques available for the purpose of forecasting, and we also have a third-party product which is called Forecast Pro, which kind of uses the statistical methods to based on your trends, historicals, has come out with new numbers. So there is a whole set of feature functionality in order to enable you to come out with numbers for your forecasting and budgeting. I would also try to just show one more thing here. So I just changed this number for sales and salaries and wages to 600K. And if I don't want to change some of the numbers, let's say I'm June now, and I don't want to impact my January to May time frame, I could actually do a lock and say, okay, my number should be 700,000 now. So this time the numbers were backward, but it only impacted the months from June to December. I'll now move on to some of the features where we have the provisions through which we could actually do variance analysis and reporting using the control software. Now, so far what you have been seeing is what we call the computational views, and they show you a specific perspective based on a single scenario, and you could see multiple scenarios, but they are for a specific time period and so on. Now, you have a feature in control where, for the purposes of reporting, I could come up with a mix of my dimensions, or I can merge some of the dimensions and come out with what we call a custom dimension, the main purpose of which is to create reporting. An example is what I'm showing here. There are many possibilities. What I've done here is my time dimension and my scenario dimension both are merged to provide a reporting which is showing you a variance analysis of the actual versus the budget tape. So I have my current month's budget in one of the columns, current month actuals here. Then I have the YTD budget, YTD actual, and better worse analysis. So this is how we could actually create customized reports, more for purpose of reporting, whereas the normal computational views are very sophisticated from an analysis or navigation perspective. These views, this particular view that I'm showing still has the dimension branch button, so I could still do the slice dice or rotate the view to get to see the view in a fashion that I would like. But it also can be kind of used for publication. So we could use these views, we could make them have a look and feel in a way that should be presented for end user access. It could be published to PDF, it could be stored in shared drives, or it can even be sent via emails. So all that is possible, and we could also use we have a notion of templates, which are basically Excel style sheets. And we could actually, depending on the standards within organizations, we could actually have different templates to make the presentation of these reports better. So I showed an example. I have another example, which is just a comparison of my financials data between current year actual versus prior year actual. So the same mechanism can be used to actually produce your management reports, could also be used for producing your statutory reporting needs. So in this view, let me also try to demonstrate another feature, which is how do I know actually I'm looking at a view here, and it shows me a variance. And if I want to go down and do an investigation, how is it enabled in control? So an example here is what I see. I have my current month actual, and that is lower than my previous year's actual, and I would like to investigate. So what I would do is I will move my net sales to the pages, bring down my business units down to understand where is the variance coming from. It appears my valves is the one which has the highest variance. I would like to investigate. So I could do something as simple as right click on the cell which was showing my current month actual and say bill to source. So I am seeing now I'm actually in a different model where my actual net sales was captured, called the revenue model. I'm seeing the numbers now. What I would like to do is I want to see this by my customers' business segments. And I compress this. So I see how the current month's sales were made out. I repeat the same for my last year's actual. So in order to then compare where the difference is coming from. Again, shift my valves and now bring down the customer segment and compress. So as I see my numbers, what it appears to me is that the oil and gas and paper last year were doing well, and when I compare it to this year, they seem to have a dip. And if I want to investigate further, I could actually go down and do a deal to source again. And what I get to see is a data source view here, which is actually showing my transactional data, which was the source for my sales data in my revenue model. You can see the invoice number, the PO number, and all the transactional details, which make up the sales number that I have in my model. So what I've tried to kind of show is that you could actually analyze your data from your model and go down all the way to your transactional system when it comes to analyzing your numbers and doing investigations. Just to kind of summarize what we did today in the demo, I had actually three models which made up this application. So I had a financials model, I had an operating expense model, I had a revenue model. Revenue model brought my product and customer perspective. Operational expenses were by department and business unit. So I can prepare budgets of forecasts using those dimensionalities. And then I consolidated all of that into my financials model, which is by business unit. And the data across these models was integrated seamlessly. And you can see that I actually looked at my variance starting from my financials model, then for the net sales variance, and got down to the revenue model where I looked at the business segments, and then I went all the way down to my AR input data source where I could see the actual transactional data. So in a nutshell, control basically uses what I would call an object-oriented mechanism. So everything in control is an object. You stack things on top of one another in order to build models which kind of model your the way you do business. And the whole application could be complex, but there is a reuse of the objects, like the dimensions in our case, and you could actually have a complete perspective of your business data within one control application. I think that's kind of what I wanted to cover, and I think we also reached our we're close to 3 p.m. now. I pass this back to Samruddhi so she can actually take next steps.
Yes. Hi. Let's have a second poll. Here is our second question. Are you looking or evaluating any CPM platform in near future? Yes, here we are getting the results. It is still in progress. Okay, here we got a result. 80% of our audiences are looking for going on for a new platform that we introduced, that is CPM. Thank you, audiences. There is one more question. There is one more quick poll that I'm trying to conduct. Please answer the same. So, are you planning to invest on your structured business practices? Sorry, I'll repeat the question. Are you planning to invest on your structured business practices? So, is it immediately that you're looking for? Are you looking immediately to invest for CPM, or within 3 months, or within 6 months? Okay, thank you, audiences. Most of them are looking for within 3 months of time span. Now let's close the poll, and if any of the questions from the audiences, you please, yeah, we can take a few questions in next 5 minutes. You can post it on the chat. The chat window is below.
So I think here is the first question. One of the attendees is asking, is CPM very different from ERP systems? So the answer to the question is yes. CPM is really a post-ERP platform. So most of the companies who have stabilized their ERP, either SAP or Oracle, they would be really adopting CPM as a platform into the next. So it is an advancement from basic SAP or ERP implementation to adopting a structured corporate performance management practice. And okay, another question we have is, what is the normal duration of CPM implementation? So most of the implementation which we have done with Control, they range between 2 months to 6 months. This compares generally favorably with other CPM systems in the market where they take anything between 6 months to a year. So generally the peak time to implement Control is 6 months and minimum is 2 months. So let me see, we can take 2 more questions, and let's see if we have more questions from the audience. Okay, so another question coming from the audience, how do you really ensure the ROI of CPM? Generally what we have seen with Control, ROI generally is in the range of 3 months to 6 months, and one of the additional answer which Giri has provided, we have also some of the recent Control implementation which are as little as 4 weeks. So that is possibly to answer the first user who asked the question. So to answer the ROI, I will again repeat the answer. Generally the return on investment is in the range of 2 to 6 months. So for a company which has well diversified portfolio, or there is a much higher size, typically from planning and budgeting, the ROI could be even as low as 2 months on the investment of CPM platform. So let me take another question which is coming from attendees. What are the top competitions which we face with Control? So mostly we face in consolidation area we face Hyperion from Oracle, and in budgeting area we face BPC of SAP. So those are the 2 competitions. What we have seen compared to SAP, BPC and Hyperion is Control is extremely flexible. It is very user-friendly platform with user interface of Excel, as well as ROI being much faster for Control as compared to other tools. So those are the 3 advantages we are seeing in some of our situations where we have competed either with SAP, BPC or Oracle. So I think that's all from question side, and now I just hand it over to Samruddhi to kind of, have some webinar ending comments.
I thank everyone who joined this webinar. I believe this was insightful. Our next initiative is we are going to conduct one event on the same platform by the end of this June. We will be sending you the invitation to join that event. We will be happy to receive your feedback for the webinar today. And if you have any suggestions for webinars specifically to your area of interest, please do send us an email and we will try to arrange a webinar session around that topic again. Any services, inquiries are welcome and we shall be glad to assist. Thank you all and thanks a lot to